Hi, this is Jack Yarwood here doing Musborough 319 contextualising music, and this recording is going to be about my personal response to my music styles that I chose, which is hip hop and pop music. And they're going to be in terms of context, in terms of instrumentalist, composer, producer, all that stuff. So, if I start off with hip hop in my personal response to the styles. In terms of producing, I am a producer and I create my own music tracks, and so I have a feel for the music in the productions, and I like to take up bits from pieces that are created, by other artists in the hip hop industry, and I like to listen to the production side of it and make sure it sounds good. I mean, through context. The hip hop is basically a collaboration of music styles. It's sort of a hybrid of a genre. When it was originally made in the late 70s, 1979, around that time, when there was the disco era, it changed and the hip hop was founded, and it was based on where the instrumentals and the production, they were mainly just disco funk style instrumentals that looped, and then there would be the introduction of rap vocals, which would make it disco rap, funnily enough. So yeah, through hip hop through the beginning, so gradually over time technology has advanced and the productions have changed and the content has, and everything that's composed through music in hip hop is changed basically through this technology advances. And so for example, a lot of hip hop is now created, the instrumentals, the productions, the compositions, they can be done a lot easier now in this day and age than if you were to go a decade back, where you would be in a recording studio and you would need very high quality technical equipment in order for the track to be completed. But nowadays you have digital softwares that make it easy for artists to produce, compose and create full tracks from your home studio. You just need a few things, which is a gradual change, and it has changed hip hop in the way that it's constructed. And yeah, and also the fact that that the sound has also changed as well. I mean, as the technology has advanced, hip hop, the genre has spread. It's broadened out more, where it uses there's tons of subgenres of hip hop. For example, there's gangster rap, trap music. There's all these sorts of different types of genres throughout hip hop that are used, and so the spectrum is quite a lot larger than it was before. And so the production, there's lots of different production nowadays. I know this producer who goes named by Lex Luger. He's an American producer in hip hop, and he got signed. He got found through his production by only making his songs through digital software called FL Studio, and he sent them to artists. And it shows you how the industry sort of changed, especially for that genre, because you wouldn't be able to do that a decade ago. Now you can. It gives the opportunity for independent artists to make professional sounding quality music without having to be signed and it actually helps promote and market the music so that you could get signed in the future. So that's hip hop in a context and introducing the composing and the production of it. I mean, it's with hip hop, there has been, like I said, a lot of change, and it kind of entwines into pop music a lot of ways. I've noticed that a lot of pop music is just popular music. It's it's a mix. It's usually a mix of genres, different types of genres. And what I've noticed in the past couple of years, there has been a change where hip hop artists do collaborate a lot with pop artists in the production pieces, and yeah, so there's that sort of element, and those songs tend to do very well in the production, so they kind of correlate to each other. there's a song from will.i.am that features Britney Spears. It's called Scream and Shout, and that was will.i.am's a hip hop artist, you know, and Britney's obviously a pop artist, but they, you know, record industries are now finding that these two work really well together, and they can succeed very well in the charts. I mean, with pop music, you know, it was founded around the late 50s. It was just after rock and roll that it was founded, and like I said, it's just you know, the popular music, the one that is the most mainstream. You know, and that's where there's a lot of money into pop music, and that's where it's a bit different from hip hop. Although hip hop is very mainstream now, and it was very specific, it is big now. It's definitely not as big as pop music, where it can broaden out to huge audiences, huge demographics. And one of the reasons for that is down to production and composition values. For example, if you listen to a lot of pop records, for example, maybe Call Me Maybe by Carly Rae Jepsen, you know, if you listen to the production into it, or listen to anything from like Britney Spears, or for Ooh La La, the song Ooh La La, the production, the melodies is very simple but very, very well constructed. Very, you know, it's from the pop music record would usually go from an intro, a verse, a chorus, and then it would, you know, repeat back to the verse and then fade out. That's usually the structure for it, and yeah, it varies, but that is the main thing about pop music, and the reason it's so successful is that it's attractive music, and it's clear sounding, and it's easy for audiences to understand the perceptions and the expectations, but it's very smartly done, and I try to incorporate that in my own hip hop production, and I try to broaden it out to make sure that I try and do that, but yeah, that's the context of those two. I mean, they're quite similar in terms of the way that they're produced, and, you know, in the instrumentals of the pieces. The only difference is really through those two in a conclusion and a kind of bottom line is that they've had different sorts of, you know, beginnings, and you know, hip hop was very culturally diverse. It was you know, it was firstly invented by African Americans, but it's for a culture, you know, that grew rapidly. But pop music was just as a whole. It wasn't a specific race or anything. It was just mainly, you know, the main music that was played, and over time, you know, record industries found smart ways to make sure that, you know, they could make a great hit record through using pop music, by using simple melodies that would transition into a very technical but complex, but in a smart way, making a great track. And also found that, you know, with pop music a lot of the time, and it's very similar to hip hop music in the sense that during, you know, choruses with pop music, they use, if they're using vocals, the vocals are always pitched to a crisp, clear sound that would just be music to your ears, that would go very well with the instrumental and the composition of the production track, and it just goes so well. I mean, if you hear, you know, for example, the Britney Spears song Ooh La La, because I'm doing that for the media unit, it goes so well together that it's just clear music, and it's just the reaction from the audience is positive, while still hip hop still maintains that sort of cultural development, you know, although the production, and that's a change in hip hop that, you know, that hasn't changed, is that hip hop still has that fundamental kind of hip hop rhythm, you know. So if I was like, you know, it'd have that. It would always have the key cultural element of hip hop, but I've noticed that over the decade, you know, new genres have come together, like the pop and the techno and the technological advances. It's still, you know, so it's making it interesting, and it'll be really interesting to see that in the future. Like I say, this is 319 contextualizing music, and this is the evaluation part at the end, just talking about pop music and hip hop music in terms of production, composition, instrumentalists, and context, basically. So yeah, thanks a lot. Cheers.